I always knew the exact moment I decided to destroy my family. It wasn't when they drained my college fund or even when they laughed off my request for a promissory note. It was the look in my brother's eyes when he signed it, that dismissive smirk that said, "Sure, little sister, whatever makes you feel better." My name is Sabrina, and I've spent my whole life being the responsible one, the careful one, the one who was supposed to understand. Understanding what? That Curtis was special. That Curtis was destined for greatness. That Curtis needed the support more than I did. He's going to be the next Mark Zuckerberg, Mom would beam at dinner parties, while I sat quietly doing my calculus homework. Curtis just has that spark, you know? The spark, as it turned out, was more of a slow-burning fuse. "Sabrina, we need to discuss something important," Dad called me into his study one evening during my senior year of high school. Mom and Curtis were already there, Curtis practically bouncing with excitement. "I've got it," Curtis announced before Dad could continue. "A social media platform exclusively for pets. It's going to revolutionize everything." I looked at their eager faces, then at the folder on Dad's desk, the one labeled Sabrina's College Fund. "No," I said, my voice barely a whisper. "Now, honey," Mom reached for my hand. "Your brother has a real opportunity here. We've talked to some investors, and with just a little seed money." "That's my college fund," I interrupted. "I earned those scholarships. I babysit every weekend. I've been planning for—" "You can take out loans," Dad waved his hand dismissively, "or maybe consider community college for the first 2 years. Curtis needs this chance now." "The market won't wait," Curtis added, as if he was doing me a favor by explaining. "This is bigger than just college, Sab. This is about changing the world." I felt something snap inside me, but my voice remained steady. "Fine, but I want it in writing." "What?" Mom blinked. "A promissory note, for the exact amount plus interest, since it's just a loan, right?" Curtis laughed. "Come on, sis, don't be so uptight. This is family." "Exactly," I smiled. "So you won't mind signing it?" Dad frowned. "Sabrina, that's really not necessary. Either I get a notarized promissory note, or I call Grandma right now and tell her what you're doing with the money she helped save for my education." The threat of Grandma, Mom's mother, who'd worked as an accountant for 40 years and had strong opinions about financial responsibility, did the trick. "Fine," Curtis shrugged. "If it makes you happy, I'll sign whatever you want." The next day, we went to the bank. I'd stayed up all night researching promissory note requirements, making sure every detail was perfect. Curtis signed with a flourish, barely reading it. Mom and Dad signed as guarantors, exchanging those familiar looks that said, "Just humor her." "There," Curtis patted my shoulder. "Happy now?" I nodded, watching the notary stamp the document. "Very." That night, I sat on my bed and stared at the note for hours. $87,000 plus compound interest at 8% annually. My entire future reduced to numbers on a page. "You should be supporting your brother," Mom said from my doorway, making me jump. This isn't very sisterly. "Neither is stealing my college fund." "We're not stealing anything. This is an investment in your brother's future. In all our futures." She sat beside me, her voice turning sweet. "Besides, you're pretty enough to find a nice husband in college. You don't need to worry so much about career plans." I carefully folded the note and placed it in a fireproof document box. "Thanks for the advice, Mom." 6 years later, I sealed an envelope containing copies of that note, a formal demand letter, and detailed interest calculations. 6 years of watching Curtis burn through my money on a series of failed ventures. 6 years of working multiple jobs, taking night classes, drowning in student loans. 6 years of family dinners, where they bragged about Curtis's entrepreneurial spirit while dismissing my paralegal career as settling. I dropped the envelope in the mailbox on a Tuesday morning. Priority mail. Signature required. By Friday, my phone was exploding with texts and calls, which I calmly ignored. "You've changed," Curtis texted. "What happened to my little sister?" I smiled at my phone screen, thinking about that dismissive smirk from 6 years ago. "She grew up," I typed back, "and she learned to read the fine print." Then I turned off my phone and went to bed, sleeping better than I had in years. Because sometimes revenge doesn't need to be served hot or cold. It just needs to be served legally binding, with compound interest. 6 years is a long time to stay quiet. Every birthday card, every Christmas dinner, every family emergency that turned out to be another of Curtis's failed ventures. I smiled through it all, building my case with each passing day. "You missed the family vacation again," Mom's voice crackled through my phone as I sorted legal documents at my desk. "Curtis gave an amazing presentation to some investors in Aspen. You really should have been there." "Sorry, Mom. Some of us have to work." I stamped another file, harder than necessary. "This job of yours, it's just so," she sighed. "Don't you want more for yourself?" I glanced at my law school acceptance letter, still fresh on my desk. "I'm doing fine." The truth was, I was doing more than fine. While Curtis chased his dreams with my money, I chased mine with student loans and determination. 3 jobs, paralegal by day, waitress by night, and online transcription work whenever I could squeeze it in. Every dollar went either to loans or savings. "Hey, overachiever!" Audrey dropped a coffee on my desk. "You look like death warmed over." "Thanks. That's exactly the look I was going for." Audrey, my best friend since college, had already made junior associate at her firm. She was everything my mother thought I should aspire to, except she'd done it through hard work, not marriage. Another all-nighter? Property law exam tomorrow. I took a desperate sip of coffee. Plus, Curtis called at 3 a.m. about his new app idea. Let me guess, another revolutionary concept? This time it's an AI that writes poetry for dating profiles. I rolled my eyes. He wanted to know if I could spot him some cash for development. And I told him my bank account was as empty as his business plan. Audrey perched on my desk. "You know, you could stop answering his calls." "Not yet." I pulled out my notebook, the one where I tracked every conversation, every request, every dismissal. I need all of it documented. The years ticked by like that. Me, building my case piece by piece, while my family built their delusions about Curtis. I graduated law school. They missed the ceremony because Curtis had an investor meeting in Seattle. I made senior paralegal. Mom asked if I was still doing that secretary thing. Then came the Sunday dinner that changed everything. "To Curtis," Dad raised his glass. "The next big thing in tech is right around the corner, son." I pushed my food around my plate, counting backwards from 10. "Actually," Curtis cleared his throat, "I need to discuss something. The dog emotion reading app needs more capital." "Of course." Mom reached for her purse. "How much do you need, sweetie?" "That's the thing." Curtis looked at me. "I was thinking, Sabrina's doing okay now. Maybe she could help out? For old time's sake?" The room went silent. I set down my fork. "You want me to invest?" I asked quietly. "Well, yeah, we're family, right? And you're always going on about how hard you work. Must have something saved up by now." 6 years of rage bubbled under my skin, but my voice remained ice cold. "You never paid back my college fund." "Oh, not this again." Mom waved her hand. "That was ages ago." "Exactly." I stood up, pulling out my phone. "Audrey, remember that question I asked you about promissory notes? I think it's time." The next morning, I walked into Audrey's office with 6 years of documentation. Bank statements, text messages, emails, recorded conversations, witness statements from family friends who'd watched the whole saga unfold. "Holy shit," Audrey whispered, flipping through my files. "You've been planning this the whole time?" "Every single day." I handed her the original promissory note, pristine in its protective sleeve. "How enforceable is it?" She studied the document, her eyes widening. With the compound interest clause? Very. And with all this documentation of their dismissal of the debt, she looked up at me. You could take them for everything. Good. I sat down, my hands steady for the first time in years, because that's exactly what I plan to do. My phone buzzed, a text from Curtis. Hey sis, about that investment opportunity. I showed it to Audrey, who shook her head in disbelief. You know, she said, once we file this, there's no going back. It'll destroy your relationship with them. I thought about 6 years of missed celebrations, of condescending comments, of watching them drain my future to fund Curtis's pipe dreams. What relationship? I replied, reaching for the legal papers. Let's do this. Sometimes the best revenge isn't just served cold. It's served with detailed financial records and a court summons. The promissory note isn't just enforceable, Audrey explained, spreading documents across her desk. It's practically bulletproof. The notarization, the clear terms, the witness signatures. Your 18-year-old self did her homework. Unlike my brother, I muttered, remembering all those nights I'd stayed up researching contract law while Curtis pitched his latest scheme to our parents. My phone buzzed again, Mom's third call today. I silenced it without looking. You should hear her voicemails, I told Audrey. A real lady doesn't sue her family. What will people think? My favorite was, you could have married Brad from church if you weren't so focused on your career. Brad, who works at the gas station? The very same. I laughed, but it came out hollow. Apparently that's better than being a paralegal putting herself through law school. A knock at my office door made us both jump. Curtis stood there, looking exactly like he had 6 years ago. Same designer clothes, same carefully styled hair, same entitled smile. Hey sis, got a minute? Audrey grabbed her files. I'll call you later, she whispered, squeezing my shoulder as she left. Curtis dropped into the chair across from my desk, spreading out like he owned the place. So, about this dog emotion app, I'm not investing, Curtis. Come on, Sab, this could be huge. Imagine being able to tell if your poodle is depressed or just having a bad hair day. Like I said, I'm not. Look. He leaned forward, his voice dropping to that conspiratorial tone he'd always used when trying to manipulate me. I know you're still hung up on that college fund thing, but this could be your chance to get in on the ground floor of something amazing. I kept my face neutral even as my hand tightened around my pen. How's the social media for pets venture going? He waved dismissively. Market wasn't ready, but this, and the AI matchmaking service? Minor setback. The cryptocurrency for garden supplies? Okay, fine. He threw up his hands. I've had some failures, but that's how success works. You have to fail big to win big. No, Curtis. That's how you work. You fail big with other people's money. His smile faltered. What's that supposed to mean? I pulled out the promissory note copy. It means I'm done funding your failures. The color drained from his face as he read. You can't be serious. This was years ago. With compound interest. This will kill Mom and Dad. He stood up, knocking over my pencil holder. Is that what you want? To destroy our family? Our family was destroyed the moment they decided your dreams were worth more than mine. You're just jealous. He spat the words. You've always been jealous that I have vision, that I take risks while you sit here pushing papers and playing it safe. I stood slowly, matching his height. No, Curtis. I'm not jealous. I'm done. Just then, my email pinged. A message from April, Curtis's ex-girlfriend, with an attachment labeled Tax Records 2016-2022. Get out of my office, I told him quietly. You'll regret this, he threatened, backing toward the door. When I make it big, don't come crawling back asking for a piece of the pie. I waited until he was gone before opening April's email. My hands shook as I read, Sabrina? Found these while cleaning out old files. Thought you should see how your college fund was really spent. Most of it went to Vegas and luxury cars, not business expenses. The tax forms he submitted to investors were forged. April. I forwarded everything to Audrey, then called her. Tell me you've seen this, I said when she picked up. Already printing copies, she replied. This changes everything. We're not just looking at civil recovery anymore. There's criminal tax fraud here. I sank back in my chair, remembering all those family dinners where they'd praised Curtis's business acumen while dismissing my career choices. What's our next move? I asked. We file tomorrow. Full court press. The tax fraud gives us leverage for immediate asset freezing. Do it. That night, I sat in my apartment staring at old family photos. Mom's voice played in my head. Use your looks, not loans, sweetie. No man wants a woman who knows more than him. I picked up my phone and dialed. Audrey, one more thing. When we file, make sure it's public record. I want everyone to see exactly who they chose to believe in, because sometimes the best way to expose a golden child is to let their tarnish show in the light of day. I took the family photo off my wall and packed it away. Tomorrow, the real fight would begin. The lawsuit hit like a thunderbolt on a clear day. Dad called first, his voice trembling with rage. What the hell do you think you're doing? He demanded. Collecting a debt, I replied calmly, organizing files on my desk. You should be receiving the official documents any minute now. This is your family. Funny. That didn't seem to matter when you took my college fund. He switched tactics, his voice softening. Sweetheart, if you needed money, you could have just asked, like Curtis does. The words came out sharper than I intended. Every month? For 6 years? The line went silent for a moment. This will destroy your mother. No, Dad. You and Curtis did that when you forged those tax documents. He hung up. Within minutes, my phone exploded with notifications. Mom had gone nuclear in the family group chat. How dare you drag our name through the mud after everything we've done for you? Curtis is devastated. I muted the chat and focused on work until my office door slammed open. Curtis stormed in, waving papers. Tax fraud? He shouted. You're accusing me of tax fraud? I looked pointedly at his designer watch. Bought the same month he'd claimed bankruptcy to an investor. Truth is an absolute defense against defamation. April gave you those documents, didn't she? He paced like a caged animal. That vindictive bit. Don't. I stood up. Those documents came from your own files. April just had the conscience to expose them. It was business. Everyone fudges numbers a little. Is that what you told Mom and Dad when you spent my college fund at the Bellagio? His face went red. You're just jealous because they believed in me, because they saw my potential while you were content to be this. He gestured at my office with disgust. Content? I laughed. I worked 3 jobs to put myself through school. I earned everything I have. You're still living off handouts and dreams. I'm an entrepreneur. You're a fraud, and now everyone knows it. He lunged forward, sweeping everything off my desk in one angry motion. Papers scattered everywhere. My coffee mug shattered on the floor. Feel better? I asked quietly. Security arrived before he could answer, summoned by my discreet panic button. As they escorted him out, he kept shouting about family loyalty and betrayal. My phone buzzed, a text from Audrey. Check your email, now. The subject line read, Notice of Asset Transfer, Walsh Family Trust. They're moving money offshore, Audrey explained when I called, but they're sloppy. Your dad used his work email to coordinate with the bank. We can prove intent to hide assets. How bad? Bad enough for an emergency injunction. Judge Harrison is reviewing it now. I hung up just as Mom's latest voicemail came through. Your grandmother would be ashamed of you. She believed in family above all else. No, Mom, I whispered to the empty office. She believed in fairness. That's why she helped save for my education in the first place. By evening, social media was buzzing. Our family's dirty laundry was trending in local Facebook groups. Mom's church friends were sharing the court filing. Dad's golf buddies were discussing the tax fraud allegations. You've started a war, Audrey said over drinks that night. Are you ready for the fallout? I showed her my phone. Dozens of messages from other daughters, sisters, women who'd been told to step aside for their brother's dreams. This stopped being about just my family the moment they tried to hide the money, I replied. Now it's about every girl who was told her future mattered less. My phone lit up with another call. Curtis again. This time I answered. What? They're selling the house, his voice cracked. Mom's crying. Dad's talking about early retirement. Are you happy now? I thought about the cramped studio apartment where I'd spent years studying while they took family vacations, about the ramen dinners while Curtis dined at five-star restaurants with investors, about every dismissive comment and missed milestone. No, I answered honestly. I'm not happy, but I am done being the family ATM. You've changed, he accused. You used to be sweet, used to care about people. I still care. That's why I'm doing this. Someone has to show you actions have consequences. After hanging up, I walked to my window and watched the city lights flicker on. My phone buzzed one last time. A notice from the court. Emergency injunction granted. All assets frozen pending hearing. I touched the glass, seeing my reflection. Curtis was right about one thing. I had changed. But maybe that wasn't such a bad thing after all. Because sometimes being sweet means letting people walk all over you. And I was done being anyone's doormat. The deposition room felt colder than it should have in the middle of summer. I sat across from my family, a polished conference table between us, while cameras recorded every word. Please state your name for the record, Audrey began. Every inch the professional. Helen Walsh, Mom answered, her voice brittle with anger. She'd worn her church clothes, as if this were a Sunday service instead of a legal proceeding. And could you describe your role in the events of May 15th, 6 years ago? I was protecting my family, Mom snapped, something my daughter seems to have forgotten about. Mrs. Walsh, please just answer the question. Dad sat rigid in his chair, his jaw clenched. Curtis slouched beside him, trying to project indifference, but failing to hide his nervous finger-tapping. We made a family decision, Mom continued, to invest in Curtis's future. As parents, we have the right to steal from one child to fund another, I interrupted, earning a sharp look from Audrey. It wasn't stealing, Mom's voice rose. We were going to pay it back when Curtis succeeded. Audrey pulled out a document. Is this your signature, agreeing to repay the amount with interest? Yes, but... And in the past 6 years, has any portion of this debt been repaid? We didn't think she was serious about collecting. She's killing this family over money. I pulled out my phone and pressed play. Mom's voice filled the room. Curtis's company is more important than some community college classes. You're being selfish, Sabrina. A good daughter would understand that. The color drained from her face. You recorded me? I recorded everything, I said quietly. Every dismissal, every broken promise, every time you chose him over me. Curtis suddenly leaned forward. This is ridiculous. I'm the victim here. She's trying to destroy my reputation. Mr. Walsh? Audrey cut in smoothly, producing another document. Could you explain these tax records? He froze. Dad's hand gripped the table edge. These appear to show the college fund being spent on personal expenses, Las Vegas hotels, sports cars, designer clothing. Yet the documents you provided to investors claim these were business development's costs. That's taken out of context, Curtis stammered. Really? Because we have statements from 3 different investors who were shown falsified documents. Son? Dad's voice shook. What did you do? Curtis exploded. What did I do? I did what you taught me. Take risks. Think big. Who cares where the money came from as long as we succeeded? By committing fraud? I asked. By believing in myself. Something you never did. He pointed at me accusingly. You were always the careful one, the boring one, playing it safe with your little legal job and your stupid night classes. Mr. Walsh, Audrey interrupted, are you admitting to knowingly falsifying financial documents? The room went silent. Curtis's face went from red to white as he realized what he'd said. I want to speak to my lawyer. Note it for the record. Audrey gathered her papers. I think we have everything we need. Mom started crying, the quiet, controlled sobs she usually reserved for manipulating Dad. Sabrina, please, we can work this out as a family. We stopped being a family the moment you decided my future was worth sacrificing. You're just like your grandmother, she spat. Cold, calculating, caring more about money than blood. No, I stood up, gathering my things. I'm exactly what you made me. Someone who had to protect herself because her family wouldn't. I walked out of the deposition room with my head high, made it to the bathroom, and promptly threw up everything I'd eaten that day. Audrey found me there 10 minutes later. Hey, she knocked on the stall door. You okay? Did you see their faces? My voice echoed off the tile. When Curtis admitted to the fraud? Yeah, that was quite a moment. I emerged, splashing water on my face. Dad looked like someone had shot him. The judge is going to crucify them, Audrey said gently. With the admission of fraud, we can push for immediate judgment. They'll have to liquidate assets to pay you back. Plus interest, I reminded her, staring at my reflection. Don't forget the interest. Are you sure you want to go through with this? We could still settle. No. I straightened my jacket. They need to learn. Actions have consequences, even for golden children. My phone buzzed. A text from April. Saw the deposition notice. How did it go? I typed back, he confessed to everything. Her response came quickly. Good. I have more documents if you need them. Time he faced the music. Walking out of the courthouse, I felt lighter somehow. 6 years of carrying their betrayal. And finally, the weight was shifting. Sometimes the heaviest burden isn't revenge. It's the years spent waiting to serve it. They're claiming Curtis was mentally unwell when he signed the note, Audrey announced, dropping a thick folder on my desk. Their lawyer filed a motion this morning. I laughed without humor. Mentally unwell? He was well enough to spend my money in Vegas. They're desperate. Your mother submitted an affidavit claiming you manipulated the situation, took advantage of Curtis's fragile mental state. Before I could respond, my office phone rang. The receptionist's voice was apologetic. There's someone here to see you. Says his name is Brent. My stomach dropped. I hadn't seen my ex in years, not since we broke up over my unhealthy obsession with work and saving money. Send him in. Brent looked exactly the same. Tall, handsome, wearing that leather jacket I used to love. His smile faltered when he saw Audrey. Hey, Sab. Bad time? It's fine. Audrey gathered her papers. I'll call you later about the motion. After she left, Brent sat down, looking uncomfortable. So, I saw the court filing. It's all over social media. Come to tell me I'm making a mistake? I kept my voice neutral. Actually, no. He shifted in his chair. I came to apologize for not understanding back then. Why you worked so hard, why you were so careful with money. I get it now. Do you? Yeah, your brother. He showed up at my restaurant last week, tried to pitch me some app idea, then asked to borrow $5,000. He shook his head. Made me realize what you were dealing with all those years. I remembered our fights about my extra jobs, my refusal to take vacations, my obsession with saving. How could I explain I was trying to rebuild what was stolen from me? You've changed, he said suddenly. You're colder than I remember. Cold keeps you safe. Does it? He leaned forward. Because you don't look happy, Sab. You look haunted. Before I could respond, my email pinged. A message from Professor James, my old ethics professor. Saw your case made the news. Would you consider giving a guest lecture on the ethical limits of justice to my senior class? I have to go, I told Brent, standing up. Thanks for stopping by. Wait. He reached for my hand but stopped short. Just don't lose yourself in this revenge, okay? The Sabrina I knew had such a big heart. The Sabrina you knew was naive, I replied. She trusted family to do the right thing. After he left, I sat staring at Professor James's email. The ethical limits of justice. What a joke. Where were the ethics when they stole my future? My phone buzzed with a text from Curtis. Mom's in the hospital. Anxiety attack. Hope you're proud of yourself. Then Dad, your mother might lose her position at church over this scandal. Is that what you wanted? Finally, a message from an unknown number. This is April. Curtis came by today, crying about bankruptcy. Karma's finally catching up. I forwarded everything to Audrey, then called her. Their lawyers claiming emotional manipulation? I asked when she picked up. Fine, let's show the manipulation. What do you mean? I've got 6 years of emails, voice messages, texts, every guilt trip, every dismissal, every time they chose Curtis over me. Let's enter it all into evidence. Sabrina, Audrey's voice softened. Are you sure this is still about justice? I thought about Brent's words, about Professor James' lecture title, about my mother in the hospital. No, I admitted, but I'm too far in to stop now. That evening, I found myself driving past my parents' house. The for sale sign looked wrong in the carefully maintained front yard. Through the window, I could see Mom sitting in her favorite chair, looking smaller than I remembered. My phone buzzed again. Another text from Curtis. I hope you know you're not just destroying me, you're destroying everything our family built. I typed back, you can't destroy what was already broken. Then I drove home to my empty apartment, where I'd spent years building my case instead of building relationships, where every decoration was chosen to be practical rather than personal, where nothing could hurt me because nothing really mattered. Brent was right. I had changed, but change was like an avalanche. Once it started, you couldn't control where it ended. I opened my laptop and began typing my response to Professor James. I'd be happy to discuss justice and its limits. But first, let me tell you about the price of revenge. Because sometimes the biggest cost of getting even isn't what you do to others. It's what you do to yourself. The judge's gavel fell like a thunderclap. Given the evidence presented, including the admission of tax fraud, this court finds in favor of the plaintiff. The full amount of $214,967, including compound interest, is to be paid within 30 days. Mom collapsed against Dad's shoulder. Curtis stared blankly ahead. I felt nothing. The court also orders the immediate seizure of assets listed in Exhibits A through C, including stocks, savings accounts, and the vacation property in Lake Tahoe. Outside the courtroom, reporters waited with cameras. I pushed past them while my family huddled with their lawyer. 6 years of waiting, planning, documenting. And it ended in less than an hour. Congratulations, Audrey touched my arm. You won. Did I? That evening, I stood in my childhood bedroom. The house was being prepared for sale, most furniture already gone. Mom had left my room untouched, a shrine to the daughter she used to have. Miss, the real estate agent called from downstairs. We're locking up soon. I opened my old desk drawer, finding a crayon drawing from when I was 10. My family, in wobbly letters, 4 stick figures holding hands, before college funds and broken promises, before everything. You shouldn't be here. I turned to find Curtis in the doorway, looking deflated in wrinkled clothes. Neither should you, I replied. Court order, remember? I filed for bankruptcy this morning. He slumped against the wall. Dad's selling his partnership at the firm. Mom's having panic attacks. Are you happy now? You know what's funny? I held up the drawing. I actually believed we were happy back then, that you were the best big brother in the world. I was. No. You were just better at taking than I was at saying no. He stepped closer, his voice breaking. I really thought I could make it work. The companies, the ideas. I really believed. I know. And suddenly I did. That's what makes it worse. You believed your dreams were worth the sacrificing everyone else's. Says the person who just destroyed her entire family over money. Not over money. I set the drawing on the empty desk. Over respect, over equality, over 6 years of watching our parents treat you like you mattered more. A car horn honked outside. Mom and Dad waiting to take Curtis to dinner. Of course they'd still choose him, even now. They're waiting for you, I said. They're your parents, too. No. They're the people who taught me that daughters are worth less than sons. I walked to the door. Goodbye, Curtis. Sabrina, wait. But I was already gone, the same way they'd been gone every time I needed them. Later that night, I met Professor James at a quiet bar. Quite a victory, he said, studying me over his glasses. But you don't look victorious. I expected to feel different. I swirled my untouched drink. More satisfied. Less. Empty. I wanted justice. Revenge. Instead, I just feel like you burned down a house to kill a spider. He smiled sadly. Justice and revenge aren't the same thing, Sabrina. One heals, the other hurts. Often the person seeking it most of all. So what was the point? 6 years of planning, documenting, waiting. For what? You tell me. What did you really want? I thought about the drawing in my pocket, about family dinners and broken promises, about Curtis's face in court and Mom's panic attacks. I wanted them to understand, I whispered, to feel what I felt, to know what it's like to have your future stolen by someone who's supposed to love you. And do they understand now? No. They just think I'm cruel, cold, unfair. Perhaps that's the real price of revenge, not just what we take from others, but what we become in the process. My phone buzzed, a text from April. Need to talk, it's important. About Curtis. I have to go, I told Professor James, standing up. One last question, he called after me. Was it worth it? I paused at the door, thinking about the empty house, the bankruptcy filing, the broken relationships. Ask me in another 6 years. Outside, I pulled out the family drawing and my lighter. The paper caught quickly, curling into ash that scattered in the wind. I expected fire. I got ash. But maybe that's what revenge really is. Not a blaze of glory, but the cold remains of what once was, scattered beyond repair. My phone buzzed again. April's message glowed in the dark. I'm pregnant. Curtis is the father. But he's gone. Sometimes karma has a way of writing its own endings. I bought you something, I told April, handing her a small gift bag as we sat in her apartment. She pulled out a tiny onesie with future lawyer printed on it. Her laugh turned into a sob. Curtis still won't answer my calls. She wiped her eyes. Your parents either. It's like they're pretending this baby doesn't exist. I thought about karma, about cycles repeating. Another child being denied their future before they were even born. I have a proposition, I said carefully. The money from the lawsuit. I want to set up a trust for the baby's education. April stared at me. Why would you do that? Because someone needs to break the cycle. I pulled out the paperwork I'd prepared. No one should have their dreams stolen before they get a chance to chase them. My phone buzzed. A text from Audrey. Turn on the local news, now. April's TV showed Curtis being led out of a hotel in handcuffs. The headline read, Local entrepreneur arrested for investment fraud. Oh, God, April whispered. I turned off the TV. The trust will be ironclad. No one can touch it except for your child's education. Not Curtis, not my parents, not even you. Just like your college fund was supposed to be. Exactly, I smiled grimly. But this time, I'm making sure history doesn't repeat itself. Later that day, I stood at the podium in Audrey's law firm, facing a room full of young women. They told me to use my looks, not loans, I began, to find a husband instead of a career, to step aside from my brother's dreams because his future mattered more than mine. The room was silent, dozens of faces reflecting similar stories. But here's what they didn't tell me, that every time you let someone steal your future, you're teaching them it's okay, that every time you stay quiet about injustice, you're enabling it. My phone lit up with a message from Mom. Your brother's in jail and it's your fault. I hope you're satisfied. I continued speaking. Sometimes the hardest part isn't standing up for yourself. It's living with the consequences of finally saying, enough. After the speech, Audrey found me in her office. The firm wants to offer you a position, she said, once you pass the bar. Your case has inspired a lot of women to seek legal help for similar situations. I don't know if I want to practice family law, I admitted. It feels too personal, raw. My phone rang. Dad's number. For the first time in weeks, I answered. What do you want? Your mother found your old report cards. His voice was rough. All those perfect grades. All those teacher comments about your potential. We never really looked at them before. I waited. The trust fund you set up for April's baby? That was decent of you. It wasn't decent. It was necessary. Could we meet? Talk about everything? I thought about the empty house, the bankruptcy, Curtis in handcuffs, about April's baby and broken cycles. No, I said quietly, not yet. Maybe someday, but not yet. I hung up and looked at Audrey. I'll take the job. That evening, I unlocked my new condo, bought outright with lawsuit money. No more cramped apartments or student loan payments. No more working 3 jobs or eating ramen for dinner. On my desk sat the final paperwork for April's baby's trust fund, next to a frame holding my law school acceptance letter. Beside it, a new family photo, me and April at her last ultrasound. My phone chimed one last time. A message from Professor James. Saw your speech online? Remember what I said about justice versus revenge? You finally found the difference. I looked at the trust fund paperwork, thinking about futures stolen and futures protected, about cycles broken and new beginnings. They say revenge is best served cold, but justice tastes like hope, like breaking patterns, like ensuring someone else's child won't have to fight the battles you did. I signed the trust fund papers, making it official. Then I wrote one final message to my family's group chat. I didn't win when I got my money back. I won when I decided to use it to protect someone else's future. That's the difference between revenge and justice. One ends cycles, the other starts them. Then I blocked the chat, poured a glass of wine, and started preparing for my new job. Because sometimes the best revenge isn't getting even, it's getting better. And sometimes justice isn't about what you take back, but what you give forward. The baby's due date was circled on my calendar. A new beginning, a protected future, a cycle broken. And for the first time since this all began, I felt truly free.